Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to webinar number 5 of our series, which is all about platforms after the pandemic. So you've invested some time and probably a whole lot of energy into these platforms. What can you do with them now? For those of you that haven't met us before, my name is Sarah Crowhurst, and I am the project coordinator for the EdTech demo programme at Elizabeth Woodville. I've got James Crowhurst sat next to me this side, and he is the lead computing practitioner at Elizabeth Woodville. We have to say that we are allowed to squash on one screen because we're married. We have to say that every time. And we also have Lisa Rathbone, who is our fantastic Year 1 teacher.
Hello.
As always, please do ask questions along the way, or if you've got any comments, pop them in the chat. We'll keep popping back to have a look at them. We might pick them up along the way, or we'll pick them up at the end. And you will get a recording of this, so it will be sent to you afterwards. Right. So let's have a look at the future. Well, we can't predict it. We all wish we could. And we've popped the term blended learning there underneath because it's a term that you might have heard before. Means different things to different people. There's different kind of definitions on the internet. But what it really just means is it's a mix of face-to-face and online learning. So let's have a look around our bubble. I'll start with whole school closures at the top because, well, we sort of hope the pandemic won't close the whole school again, but with new variants, and talk about worries about the autumn and outbreaks, and it probably is very possible. So the more you use your LMS now, the more hopefully those skills that you've spent so long building up won't drop, and it will be more seamless if you have to pivot to whole school on the LMS in the future. Going round clockwise, I'll have a look at reducing workload. So we'll discuss this later on, but technology really can do things quicker than us sometimes. It might take a bit of work in the beginning. So with everything ICT, I always think when you're setting things up, there's a little bit of work to start off with. But when it's all set up and running, then it can save you a lot of time in the long run. A really quick win is using your LMS for subject evidence, and we will be looking at that first, actually, in just a second. Bubbles. Already some bubbles locally that we know of that have had to pop. So children being able to access the work as they would in class is still so important for using your LMS and keeping that running. Differentiation, again, we're going to come to this in the webinar, but your LMS can really impact on teaching and learning by using it more in the classroom. But as I said, we'll have a bit of a chat about that later. And then Lisa, I know that you use the LMS an awful lot for communication and setting work for individuals. So do you want to take us through those two?
Yeah, so regarding communication, it provides us with a great opportunity to communicate with others. Like I said, we'll talk about this a little bit more in detail later, but it's great for parents sending messages about appointments, such as dentists and doctors, reminders about pickups and any issues that may just impact the day, whether they've had a bereavement in the family or anything like that. We found due to COVID that we've noticed that it's much harder for parents to mention these small concerns that for most of the time they feel like they don't need a phone call to the school or an email to the school, whereas these systems are quite good for writing a quick note and letting the teachers know, letting the staff know, and we can kind of have that information. In regards to individuals using LMS, again, we'll delve deeper into that, but it's a great way of remaining in contact with these children who might be off due to long-term illness or maybe shielding or self-isolating. We've had a pupil, for example, who has been shielding from October until March, and by using our system, the child was able to follow the curriculum and join in with the lessons and just feel part of the school.
Yeah, I know that parental communication is so hard at the minute, isn't it? Because parents would catch you in the morning, at the end of the day, at the door. Have you found that it's really helped with that?
Definitely, because it's those parents that think, well, I don't want to bother the school office. It's not worth a phone call. It's not worth an email to the office. But it might be quite important to the child. And it's just, so I've had a parent, for example, today that's just put a quick message on there that I can then respond to today, and it's sorted, because you don't actually get to see the parents. They drop the children off as the children are walking through the gate. So unless they can't, you kind of pull you to one side, which sometimes they feel a bit embarrassed about doing, and they don't like you to kind of do that whilst they're in a line. So it just kind of keeps that communication open, but without having to have everybody listening in on it, or it's a great distance that we have to keep at the moment.
Yeah, fantastic.
Brilliant. Yeah, and then if we carry on moving round, we've got collaboration. So collaboration, excellent way for staff to collaborate on documents, planning, etc. together, and we will look at this a little bit further a little bit later on as well. And then finally we get on to homework. And now hopefully a lot of you have already been using your LMS for homework, but brilliant for sending out worksheets, etc. to home without them getting lost in the bag. Mm-hmm. Children have got the homework there. They can submit their homework back through the LMS, so that then you can get homework back in different ways than what you used to be able to. No longer are you just getting back like a filled in completed sheet. You might get a little video of something or some photos of something that's gone on. So it's a great way of being able to have greater depth of homework and improve that homework, which hopefully will then help with closing the gaps and things further down the line. And then we get on to parental engagement. So again, with the platforms, the parents are able to see a little bit of the work their children are doing. So with COVID at the moment, they can't look at the books. They can't come in and have parental meetings and things like that. So it's a great way for parents to be able to see the work that's going on in the classroom and see the work that's going on for their children. It's something that happens a lot in EYFS. But it doesn't really tend to get carried on through the school. But it can carry on through the school. Something to say we don't have to, we can't do it during the school. So why not do it in the school? Why not give access to some of this information so parents can see it, they can be more engaged. You could put on videos for parents explaining different concepts as well. And then that would allow parents to feel like they're more part of the community and hopefully help encourage the children to do their work, do their homework, have discussions with the children about things that have gone on at home as well. And it just opens up those channels and those communication channels. So we're going to move through now and have a look a little bit further at some of these things in more depth. So first of all, we're going to start off with evidence collecting, and Lisa's going to take us through this one.
Thank you. So when it comes to evidence in students' work, I've found that using topic books are a great way for written activities in history and geography and artwork. But what about the subjects that we can't do this for? So using LMS opens up so much more freedom and opportunities to evidence these subjects such as PE and D&T and music. And we can upload and save video recordings either created by ourselves or recorded by the students. And then these can go onto our systems and be saved on there for evidence for us to be able to see their learning and their understanding. And these can then be shared with teachers, parents across the school, in and out of school, so the parents can see what their children are doing. Things like our music performances that we normally do that we're not able to showcase those musical instruments and those children playing them and learning them. This is a great way to kind of show the rest of the school and also show the parents at home. With regards to reading, you could set up a child to voice record themselves reading out loud to continue practicing their fluency. And this would free up an adult who could then assess this later on. I created an activity where I assessed the children's phonic knowledge by asking them to record themselves reading these words. And this is now saved on our LMS so that we can go back and we can assess and we can future plan and find out where all those gaps are. But it's there to keep. So if anybody wanted to see them doing this phonics screening check, then we can just put it up. And it's not just me having a tick sheet. They're actually the children reading those words. And the same with high frequency and common exception words that you can do. It's a great way of kind of saying, well, here's the evidence, they can do it. And it's not just us ticking a sheet. But it's a great way of evidencing children's progression and their learning and their understanding. You can hear the children discussing things. So, for example, in a D&T lesson, they could be talking about and explaining how they've joined their model. They could have castle and they could have chose to do a join or something. And you could ask that child why they have done that join, and then you've got them explaining themselves and using their vocabulary, and you can really show that that child has that greater depth in what they have done.
Yeah, you can use it for a whole host of lessons, really. Absolutely everything that we teach, we could put on the LMS. We've popped the little Ofsted logo in the bottom corner, to remind us to talk about what about. A lot of schools say to us, oh, this is great, but what about when Ofsted come in and that we have to show the evidence and it's not in the books? Create a login. We've both worked in a school that have had an Ofsted, and we have created a visitor login for anyone who wants to come and have a look, and they log in and we change the password at the end of the day. So I think kind of one of the days, and I hope they are, that we have to create pic collages to explain everything that we've taught during the day, because it's just 2D, and LMSs allow for videos and things like that, as Lisa said, which gives a bit more depth and enrichment to what you're showing.
Yeah, it's really, really helpful for any visitor who wants to come in on site, or for SLT or MAT leaders if you're part of a MAT, or even for staff when they are doing subject monitoring. They can go in, they can have a look, they can see the evidence that's on there. They don't need to go trawling through books and just see an image or a little bit of writing about something. They can actually see a video of something happening. So they could see a video of PE or something like that. And the visitor login is brilliant, having that visitor login there set up, and then resetting the password obviously means that they can't use it anymore, but your account's still there. You don't have to go removing them in and out of the system all the time, or creating a new account for Ofsted, creating a new account for this person, a new account for that person. It might be that governors sometimes want to have a look at it as well. If governors are looking at subject monitoring with you and things like that as well. And brilliant for deep dives, so they can be able to show the evidence and the progress of things that have gone on. And that's the real key there, is the fact that it's going to show the progress, and having this evidence there, you can see the progress so easily, and it's there in video format, in photograph format. It's black and white, really. There's no arguing with it. It's all there. So that's about the evidence, and it's a brilliant way of doing things and using it. If we move on now to think about differentiation, and Sarah is going to take us through the differentiation bit.
Okay, so your LMS is a perfect way to split yourself in half as a teacher, to do the thing you always want to do because someone always needs you. And closing the gaps is going to be so important over the next year. We know that children are going to have gaps that need closing. So what you can do is, when you're in the classroom, you could provide work on your platform for the majority of children while you teach a group, or you could do it the other way around. So you work with the majority or group, and the majority do it the other way around. You could, when you're marking, notice misconceptions. So when you're marking, you could notice a whole group of children have made a bit of a misconception, but you're doing the lesson again like the next day, and maybe if they just had something little that you provided on the LMS that they did in register time, that they did straight after they came in at lunch, it might just close that gap down so they're in the same position as other children when you come to teaching your whole lesson. Or, device permitting, this one, you could have your extension activities on your LMS. So instead of photocopying or making work for children to do once their main work has been done, they know to go and log in, and they can log in themselves, and you've taught them, a bit of training's needed, to go and grab a device and log in, and their extension activity is there for them to do. And you can use Loom and YouTube to provide videos to help with this. And the great thing about those is that then the learning can be paused and rewound, so they can revisit it multiple times during the lesson if they need to. Now, I know this kind of sounds lovely and idealistic on paper, but what about the practicalities? I promise you it does work. It can work really well because I've done it. I've done it myself. I have done it with children as young as year 1 and with class sizes over 30. So it is definitely possible. My top tips would be invest in headphones, because that will stop the distractions if you've got children doing different things. And don't be hard on yourself. The first time you do it is never going to be perfect, because the children will need some training too. I always found that it was easier, if you're going to do this in class, it was easier to do it with maths first, because the concepts were more concrete. So the videos were a little bit easier to make, but you might be able to use videos now that you made back in lockdown 1 or in lockdown 2, so you can reuse content. Or one of your colleagues might have a really good video that's suitable for the child that needs a gap plugging that you could use and share. So you always reuse any content that you've got. But the plumbing has to be right as well, what we call it. So your Wi-Fi has to be strong, because you need that to be for children to be accessing devices. And the devices need to be charged and ready to go. But once all of that's in place, it really can have a massive impact on teaching and learning, because it makes learning much more personalised to that child.
That's brilliant, thank you. And now we're going to move on to looking at how we can use the LMS to reduce workload. So like Sarah has just mentioned, if you start to make videos, it might seem like a little bit of work at the moment, but further down the line, you can start to reuse those videos, and you can reuse videos from colleagues as well. Or you might have your English coordinator might make some specialist videos based around literacy for certain children. Things like that will really help and help close those gaps and create that differentiation in the classroom. But another way that we can reduce workload is by using quizzes. So reducing workload with quizzes is brilliant. Quizzes are fabulous at helping children keep engaged. And it's not just for at home. A lot of people I know who've been using quizzes while the children are at home for that reason, but in the classroom as well, it's absolutely brilliant and perfect way to get the children engaged. It could be used for homework as well, so you could be doing it for homework. Yes, at the start you might have to create the quiz, but then you can reuse these quizzes, and you can reuse questions within these quizzes to gather knowledge about the children. So you could be creating spelling quizzes or times tables quizzes. You could be taking screen snips of like SATs questions and putting them in for them to answer. And the really joyful thing about these is that if you use the self-marking features in them, you're not having to mark them. The children get instant answers, so they know whether they're right or wrong. And then you can export all this information at the end into spreadsheets, so you've got it for evidence later on, or you can use it to check progress. So you might do a quiz at the start of a topic and then do a quiz again at the end of a topic to be able to check the progress that's going on there. And all common quiz apps have these features. So if you're using things like Google or Microsoft, then you've got Google Forms or Microsoft Forms in there, and they've got lots of tools and features in there. But then there's other apps like Kahoot and Quizzes that you can use that do the same thing and offer the same sorts of tools and features. And the kids absolutely love them. I often get from the kids, "Are we doing a Kahoot today?" Because they just love being able to do it. So again, it's a great way of being able to keep the children engaged and on track, and also you could use it as a little bit of reward as well at the end of the session, but you're still gathering information about their knowledge, because it could be an RE quiz, and you're gathering their knowledge about the work that they've done on RE at that period, and they absolutely love it. But taking it another step further, so not necessarily using it with the children now, they're absolutely brilliant for use with parents and staff. So you could use it to get permission for different activities that are going on. And hopefully in the future, permission slips for trips or going outside of school.
It will be allowed soon.
Yeah, we'll be allowed to go outside of school. Wow. Or leave the classroom. So, things like that will be really good. Or for using it for surveying parents. And I know a lot of schools at the moment are looking into surveying parents about how they felt home learning went, so they can look at if they need to improve it for the future possibly, or just generally surveying parents on anything really that you want to survey parents on. And because you get all this information digitally, it's so much easier for you to then analyse and look at a later date. And then as well, if you were doing the same survey every year, you can just copy that form and adapt the year on it and send it back out again for next year. So next year, it's so much quicker and so much easier to send out. So great way of reducing workload by using quizzes and forms. So then that takes us on to now more about communication, collaboration, and parental engagement. And Lisa's going to take us through some of these, and then we'll look at some other bits.
Okay, so we can use our LMS to improve communication between all stakeholders. This means that we can ensure that the staff, parents, pupils, governors can use that one method to quickly communicate and do it efficiently, and everybody kind of knows where they're going to be communicating from and how they're going to do that. We can make use of our LMS to enhance staff collaboration. For example, we've used systems to share planning resources and PowerPoints between key stages. I've shared PSHE and wellbeing lessons between staff and classes that are in school, as well as those that are working remotely, either because they have a long-term illness or they're shielding. We've used share drives and documents during staff meetings when we're all working on the same thing. For example, like updating the school's SEN documents. So instead of us all working on one document each and then emailing it to our Senko, we've then kind of done it all on one form. Everybody's work is on the same one, and that means the Senko coordinator can quickly and efficiently gather that information, and it's all there in one place, and everybody knows where to find it if they need it. As well as this, we can use our LMS to enable parents to be more involved in their child's education. So children might be remote learning, again, due to the long-term illnesses or shielding, and they might have to continue to be learning remotely. And as I said before, using this to communicate between teaching staff and parents, it's a great way for these children that aren't in school to still feel like they're involved by sharing their work and their topics. And again, even with the children in school now, we can share their work to parents that they've done in school time, and share information on topic like knowledge organisers, or just information like they need their wellies because it's Forest Schools Day and things like that. You've got to open that communication out, and parents are able to see what is happening at a time where it's really hard for those parents to kind of know what we're doing. Like James has mentioned before, parents even at the moment is all online. We're not allowed to showcase the children's work. We're not allowed to show their work and share those books with them. So by uploading work on there, we're enabling those parents to be more involved in their education. And because they are more involved, if we do end up going into, hopefully not, another remote learning situation again, those parents kind of feel more ready and engaged and willing to work with us because we've kind of been through them the whole way. And if information is about learning is more available, then they might feel more involved and included within school, especially like the foundation children and those children that are in year one at the moment, because they've been through so many lockdowns, so many remote learning, they might feel that they're not actually part of the school, and this is a great way to make them feel like they are. And other ways that we can use them is that kind of showcasing in-school projects. So when we can have our open days, and we can have parents' evening. We can showcase the children's work on systems around the schools, on screens, to show what we've been doing.
That's brilliant. So then just to pick up on that, we've got the centralised hubs as well. So the whole idea about your learning platform and having this edtech centered ecosystem is gives you this facility to have this like centralized location where resources and information can be stored, and that can be for all stakeholders. It doesn't just have to be for children for using their work, or for staff. You can have a governance area where you've got policies and meeting agendas and minutes, and links to useful governance websites that they might want to access, or there might be courses that they can book onto, things like that. Everything can all be kept in this one location where they've got this access to, and it's all there. But also, because it's within your ecosystem, within your platform, it's secure as well. So obviously, you don't want to be putting some of the governor information, for example, out there on your school website, because it's private, it's personal, it needs to be kept secure. So this is a great way of being able to do that. Likewise with parents, I know a lot of schools use their school website with parents to put things out there, but there are some things that you might want parents to have access to, but you don't necessarily want to share with the world. Websites are becoming more about like attracting visitors or attracting pupils into your school, and you can have this centralized hub for parents where you could have links off to payment systems, parents' evening booking systems, all host of different things that they need to have access to, but then also have on there like access to videos, as I mentioned earlier, that might be teaching them how to do phonics more effectively, so that they can help their children with phonics at home. Or it might be maths videos explaining maths concepts, which could be created by your maths coordinator in school, and putting those on there. And you might not necessarily want those available to the world, but having them there on that centralized hub for parents is a brilliant way for them to be able to access it. And then being able to showcase and share information with parents in there again is great. And some of you might already be doing this with some of your platforms you've got available to you. But again, for those of you that aren't, it's a great way of being able to have that central system, that central place where everything can be accessed. And everyone knows, oh, I just go to this location and everything's there. Not thinking, oh, am I going to this app, or am I going to that app, or am I going to that app? Do I need to go to there to do that? They just know, oh, I just go to here and it's all there. It's all accessible, which makes it much easier and improves that communication within the school. So with all of this in mind, we are going to take a little bit of a look about platform progression now. So I'll just hand over to Sarah.
Okay, so what can we do at the minute? Well, we're in a little bit of a lull, hopefully, fingers crossed. Take some time to consider which parts of your LMS, your platform, work for you and which parts really don't. How easy is it for them to use them in class? Got our children logging on and off independently? If not, are there ways you can improve that by QR codes or simpler passwords, things like that? I know a lot of schools put the passwords inside their children's exercise books now, so they're really readily available. And then think, how will you integrate your platform into everyday life at the school? Now you've got it, you might as well carry on and use it. What kind of ways can you think of to integrate for you? And they'll be different for different schools. Do you need to or want to change parts of your school or the whole school? You might want to a completely different platform. It might just not have worked for you, and you've heard that something else is better. You know, a school down the road where you think I'd kind of like to give that a go. Have a think and make a plan. Well, we've got hopefully a bit of time to think about it.
Yeah. So thinking about that, we have been looking at our combined platform progression map. So thinking about how the best way to use the platforms within your school. And from that, we're looking at EYFS and Key Stage 1, what can they have? Looking at lower Key Stage 2, what can they have? And then looking at upper Key Stage 2 and what can they have? And we're going to delve into each of these 3 sections in a bit more depth in a minute. But then I've kept on there live lessons at the bottom as well at the moment, because you might have individuals at home who want to access some content via a live session. And it's just important to think, I don't have to use the Google Meet platform because I'm using Google Classroom. I could use Zoom instead. So it's about using the platform that you're most comfortable with and getting the most from it. And also possibly the one that's the most accessible to the children and the children are used to using as well. So just think about that in there with your compliant platform progression as well. We don't know where we're going to be in the future, so we might be doing more live stuff. So if we take this more in depth, if we look at EYFS and Key Stage 1 first, the importance of obviously EYFS in Key Stage 1 is that they can access it. They've got to be able to access it really easily. So having a QR code just for them to access it is a massive bonus, we feel. And then having the tools that are built into their platform so they can create things without having to go into another app. Again, really, really powerful. And the ability for the teacher to put on instructional videos and voice marking directly within the app is absolutely ideal. We kind of call this a primary friendly platform. And there's Tapestry, Class Dojo, Seesaw, they all do those sorts of things and are really good at it. There are other platforms out there as well. But now might be a time to think, do I want to consider my platform for EYFS and Key Stage 1? It might be you have one for EYFS and one for Key Stage 1. And that's absolutely fine. So you might use Tapestry and EYFS, for example, and Seesaw and Key Stage 1. Just an example, it's absolutely fine. It's thinking about the correct tool for that year group and also getting the children to access it in the right way. And then if we move on, we look at lower Key Stage 2. So in lower Key Stage 2, you can always think about that as kind of using a bit of a combination of platforms. They might start off by using the primary friendly one that they've been using in Key Stage 1, but have really mastered that platform. They're using all the tools more effectively, so that they're using it to create some really powerful content, but they can still get the instructional videos from the teacher directly in there. They can still have the voice marking directly in there. But then you might look at using a little bit of what we're calling an enhanced platform. So kind of like the next level up. So basically like the Google or the Microsoft platforms, where they could start using like document creation and doing quizzes and things like that. And then if you could combine logins, which obviously makes it easier for the children, or if you're still using QR codes, it's not as difficult for them anyway. And that it helps them get used to using different passwords and things like that. So we talk a little bit about security. If you're just a junior school, then it would be an idea to probably talk to your feeder infant school to see what they're doing, because you might want to utilize a little bit of what they're doing and build on that. And that's absolutely fine. Or you might just come in and say, right, they're fresh into our school, so this is what we're doing with them. And that's absolutely fine. And then if we move on to upper Key Stage 2, this is where our enhanced platform usage becomes really powerful. And that's where you kind of using that Google Workspace or the Microsoft Office 365 much more effectively. And we're saying Google Workspace or Microsoft Office 365 rather than Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams, because there's more to them than just Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams, because you've got your docs, your sheets, your slides in Google Workspace, and then you've got your Word, your PowerPoint online tools within Office 365. So there's more facilities and more features there for you to use. But then you could also be combining that with other apps. So looking at, like we said earlier, using quizzing apps like Kahoot, or using Loom, screen recording tools for the children. So the children are screen recording and creating screen records themselves. You might have some PDF software in there like Loom and PDF, or you might use Edupuzzle for your videos. There's a whole host of different apps that you can embed within your platform and create, as I mentioned earlier, that centralized hub for the children. So you might have links off to different websites and things like that that they might use as well, like timetables, rockstars, and things like that. But it's still okay to keep the voice marking going on in there and use those facilities as well by using add-ons. Then we come through to the staff platform, as we've called it. However, it doesn't just have to be staff platforms. As I mentioned earlier, we've got governors that could have a platform or a parental platform in there. So this is more to have a think about it, really. Do you need a platform for these people within the school, for these stakeholders? Who would be using it? How would they use it? Is it going to help improve your communication? We've found that communication has been massively improved by using these platforms. And I'm talking about before the pandemic as well here. This isn't something that we've just done during the pandemic and during COVID. This has been going on for years beforehand. And then the collaboration, as Lisa mentioned earlier, being able to share planning and work on that planning documentation at the same time together is really powerful. Or a whole school filling in a spreadsheet about team sports day and who's going to be in what team and things like that, rather than having to wait for someone to come in and out, or everyone sending in sheets of different names, and then the office having to bring it all together and put it all into a spreadsheet, and then it gets sent back out and a child got put into the wrong group or something like that. It just makes everyone in control with it there. And it's okay to use a different platform for this to what you are using with the children. So you could use a combination of all different platforms, or you might just use one. But now, because you've been using your platforms for a while now is the time to take stock and think and have a look at it and think, how can we move forward and use this to our advantage and look at what we can do for the future and really have that EdTech focused future. And with that, we're just going to pull back to the slide that we had on earlier with the future with blended learning, and thinking about all of these areas in here. Now, there might be some others that we've not mentioned in there, but don't think that you have to pick up on all of these straight away. This is something you need to plan for over time. You might put in, just start looking at subject evidence, but you might just say, right, we're just going to subject evidence PE. And that's it for this term. Let's see how it goes. And then hopefully you'll take that on board and think, actually, no, this is really good. I can start evidencing for this, I can start evidence for that. But at the same time, don't let the platform slip. Use it for your homework, use it for differentiation. We don't know what's going to happen with whole school closures. We only have to look at Italy, who I think have had schools open for around about 5 weeks and had to close them again. We don't know what's going to happen. Yes, we're being vaccinated, but
variants.
You never know. Who knows? It could be a different pandemic in the future. But then, and I don't like to say this, I always get frowned upon when I say this, but what happens if your boiler broke and you had to close the school for a few days? You could start to use online learning. A little while ago, there was a time when there was issues with fires in schools, especially in Derbyshire, and that you could be using your platform to do some learning for that and to give the children a bit of sense of normality with it there. And there are going to be times when the bubbles are going to close at the moment. Anyway, you might have individuals who are off sick, for long-term sick. I worked with a school a few years ago who had a child who was off on long-term sick, and we set up a camera so that she could feel like she was part of the classroom and in part of it, and they were using their learning platforms. They had one at the time, so that she was able to submit work and do work for it. It might be that you've got teachers who are off but they're still able to teach, and they want to teach, but they can't be in school for whatever reason. It might be something that's happening, and they could be on the screen running live lessons with a support member of staff running behaviour management in the classroom. And a lot of you might think, oh, that's not going to work because the children will just talk over and things like that. But I've been working with a school who've been doing this over the last couple of weeks, and it has worked really well. And it's amazing how well the children respond, because they know they've got to listen to their teacher, and they know they're on camera all the time working with the teacher. And it is really interesting. And they're submitting their work back. They still do it in books and take photos, submitting their work back through the platform. But because they're using the platform, they know how to use it. It's happening seamlessly. It's working really, really well. So that just brings us now to the end, where we'd seem to think about questions on there. If anyone has got any questions, then please feel free to type them into the chat, and we'll try and answer them for you. And we will take time to discuss them for you. We'll hang around a little bit at the end as well if you don't want to ask them in front of everyone. Apologies about the sound. We got a little bit of feedback as well there at the end. I'm not quite sure what was going on with the sound, so apologies about that if anyone had issues with the sound in there. And just to let you know, the EdTech Demonstrator Programme has been extended by the DFE. I don't know if there's been an official announcement yet, but it has been extended. They're still in the process of kind of finalising everything and sorting it all out. But Sarah's got some news about what we're able to do.
So hopefully, I should have been in contact with everybody who's with us already on the programme. We can go all the way through to April 2022 now, which is absolutely lovely for us, because working long term is so much better than doing a rushed kind of support. So there's 3 kind of sets of support available: a light touch, a medium touch, which is about 15 hours over the year, and a long-term support, which is about 30 hours over the year. So if you haven't already, drop me an email. We can pencil you in now, and just when the DFE give us the proper details, I can get in touch with you a bit later on, but we can put you on our list now. So if you haven't already, do drop me an email. And it doesn't have to be remote learning anymore. It's anything computing. So we can help with curriculum or devices, anything really.
Yeah, using iPad apps, using different related apps. So yeah, a whole host of different things in there. I'm not quite sure how the sign-up process is working at the moment. So if you want to just contact us, and then we'll be able to sort you out later. On our email address is on the screen now as well. So if you haven't got Sarah's email, then feel free just to send an email to that, and we'll be able to pick it up and sort it out. And
there's our Twitter handle as well. So we always put things on Twitter as much as we can. So follow us on Twitter if you can do that.
So thank you very much. And thank you for taking time out to come and watch us on what looks like a nice evening. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
It's been a marathon of a couple of weeks, so thank you so much. We'll hang around for a sec, just in case anyone wants to put any chat in, and then we'll leave you be, and you can enjoy your lovely evening. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Just give it just another 30 seconds, if anyone's just typing a question or anything, just to give it a chance to come through. Thank you to everyone who's saying thank you.
Dropping down now, so let everyone
most
go.
People are leaving. Right, I think we'll disappear there. If you have got a question and haven't been able to type it in and want to ask, then please feel free just to send it to the email address on the screen. Thank you. Bye.